Whether you're moving your supply chain to a new supplier or transitioning from development to mass production, the RFQ process is an important step. It's what takes you from the development stage with a design and a prototype towards production with quotes from multiple suppliers. But to get an accurate quote, your supplier needs the right information. Failing to share the proper data with your supplier will lead to inaccurate quotes and a bunch of back and forth that really nobody has time for. This is why knowing what to share with your supplier will help you to get the most accurate and quickest quotes. In this video, I'll walk you through the key details to include in your RFQ so your supplier can give you a quote that aligns with your production needs. Also, before we get started, if you guys don't mind to hit that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate that. The goal of the RFQ process is simple. It's to get a quote for your product from your supplier. And since you're looking for an accurate quote, it's important that you offer the most up-to-date and objective information. If your RFQ is missing key details, you'll likely get a quote that is not accurate. So what kind of information do you actually need to include? Now we could go through the key details that will help you to get the most accurate quotes. Also, these are really not in any particular order, so make sure you guys stick around until the end. The first one might be basic, but introduce your product to your supplier. Before your supplier can provide an accurate quote, they need to understand what your product is and how it's used. This helps them to determine manufacturing complexity, material requirements, and potential compliance standards. Your product introduction should be a brief but clear description of what you are making. So include details such as the product's function. What does the product do? Also, what are some key features? So what makes it unique? And are there any special considerations? Does it need to meet specific durability, environmental, or safety standards? For an example, if you're manufacturing a wireless charger, you'd want to mention its battery capacity, whether it includes fast charging technology, and any certifications required for different markets. A clear product introduction is really the first step of the rest of the RFQ process. Now you can move to the next part. The next part is to share your minimum order quantity and annual forecast. Your supplier needs to know how many units you plan to produce. This is not just for your first order, but for future orders as well. This affects everything from pricing to material sourcing to production planning. This MOQ is a minimum number of units that you promise to purchase for each order. Every supplier will have an MOQ, but if you are developing a unique product, then you could probably tell your supplier what your MOQ is. You're essentially telling your supplier that I will purchase at least 5,000 units per order. In return, your supplier will quote you for 5,000 units. Also, share your 12-month forecast. This helps your supplier plan capacity, secure materials, and even offer better pricing based on higher volume commitments. For an example, if you need 5,000 units for your first order, but plan to scale up to 50,000 units within a year, then make sure they know this. The quote per unit for 50,000 units will be much lower than a quote with an order of just 5,000 units. The next thing you'll need to send your supplier is your bill of material or your BOM. The BOM is one of the most important pieces of information in your RFQ. It's essentially a list of every single part along with all of the information on that part. A well-structured BOM typically will include part names, material specifications, color, processing methods such as plastic injection molding, die cast, CNC, and other fabrication methods, the surface finish such as brush metal finish or polish, MPNs or the manufacturer part number if this is relevant, and quantities required per unit. One common mistake is providing an incomplete BOM that is leaving out critical detail. If your supplier has to make assumptions, you might end up with a quote that doesn't reflect your actual product costs. Your supplier also needs CAD files and technical drawings to understand your design. These files help determine manufacturing feasibility and ensure that your parts are produced exactly as they are intended. When sharing CAD files, it's best to provide them in step files rather than native CAD files. The reason for this is that step files are universally compatible across different CAD software, so your supplier should always be able to open it. While they can always open a step file, they might not be able to open a native SOLIDWORKS part or assembly file. Along with CAD files, you should provide 2D technical drawings that specify dimensions, tolerances, material requirements, and any critical manufacturing notes. These 2D drawings help your supplier ensure they meet your exact specifications. Next, send your supplier steps on how the product should be assembled. This helps your supplier understand how parts fit together, any special tools or techniques required, and potential challenges during the assembly process. When you send these instructions, make sure you include details, such as a video that's a step-by-step assembly process, any specific assembly tools or equipment, and special handling instructions. With clear assembly instructions, your supplier can better estimate labor costs, assembly time, and potential risks during production. It also ensures the final product is assembled correctly and meets your expectations. To ensure your product meets the right standards, it's essential to specify any quality requirements and certifications up front. This could range from material quality to performance standards to compliance with specific industry regulations. When sharing your quality requirements, make sure you include any testing methods that are necessary, such as durability or functionality tests. Also, what are the inspection processes? And are there any required certifications that are needed, such as ISO, UL, or CE? Offering these requirements helps your supplier understand the level of testing necessary during mass production. It will also weed out any suppliers that really don't qualify. So for an example, if you're manufacturing a medical device product, then you'll most likely need a supplier that's ISO 13485 certified. If they're not, then they're most likely not a suitable supplier for you. The last part is all about getting your product ready to be shipped. It's making sure you offer the packaging and labeling requirements, which are important for compliance and logistics. Clear instructions on how your product should be packaged and labeled help prevent shipping damage and make sure that it arrives to the correct destination. When sending your packaging and labeling requirements, don't forget to include the packaging material. This could be foam inserts, shrink wrap, or really anything else. Also, offer the dimensions and weight for each packaged unit. And lastly, what are the labeling details? These include product name, SKU, safety warnings, barcodes, and regulatory compliance labels such as a CE or UL logo. Since the goal of the RFQ process is to get a quote from your supplier, it's important that you share all the relevant information with your supplier. The way you share data with your supplier is critical to ensuring you get an accurate quote and a product that meets your standards. The more transparent you are at this stage, the fewer surprises you'll encounter later on. If you're preparing to send out an RFQ, make sure you have all of these details in place. A well-prepared RFQ not only speeds up the quotation process, but also helps you to build a pretty strong relationship with your supplier. I hope you guys have a better understanding of the type of data to share with your supplier during the RFQ process. If you have found this helpful, then please like it, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you everyone for watching.